Hey guys, Nick here and welcome back to another video. Today I want to do my long-term review on the camera I'm actually filming on right now, which is the Sony A7S III. Now I picked this camera up back in October last year, and when I picked it up I was hoping that this camera would be the ultimate hybrid camera, as I do video and photo work, and that's why I picked it up. So in this video I'm going to show you whether or not it is actually the ultimate hybrid camera, my opinions and thoughts, and yeah, whether or not I'm going to keep it. So, you know, I do a couple gear reviews like this on the channel every now and then, and I definitely enjoy playing with cameras. When the Sony A7S III got announced, I was super excited with the feature set that it had, and I pre-ordered it straight away and wanted to check it out. Now I've had it for a few months and I've been able to, I guess, deal with the quirks and all that sort of stuff. Do I like this camera? The quick answer is yes, it's a fantastic camera, but I'm not quite sure if it's the right camera for me, and let's go into those points. I'll have chapter markers down below if you want to skip to certain sections. We're going to talk about the camera itself, the physicality, the ergonomics, that kind of thing. We're going to talk about it as a photography camera. Like I said, I wanted a hybrid camera, the videography side of things, and then I guess final thoughts as well. So skip ahead if you want to have a look at specific sections, but let's just jump straight into the physicality, the ergonomics of the Sony A7S III. I would give this camera almost like a 9 out of 10 in terms of ergonomics. The only thing I don't like about this camera is the fact that it is just a little too small for my hand. And I think most adults will have this opinion. The grip itself, although better than the Sony A7 III, it's a bit deeper, a bit chunkier, easier to grip. You still have your pinky finger sort of dangling there. Coming off the back of the Canon EOS R, where you could get a full good grip of the camera, you know, that is the thing I miss the most. Everything else about this camera is really great. A few of the things I'll mention that I really like: the port doors on the camera just are really well laid out. They're not flimsy or flappy, they're not gonna break. They've also done a nice little small port door for the microphone audio cable, so that when you flip the screen around, it's not gonna get in the way. I think that's quite smart. Like I just said, it does have that fully articulating screen. For better or for worse, I find myself sometimes loving it, especially when doing YouTube videos like this, but then when doing photography, it's not my favorite thing in the world. So I'm kind of on the fence with the whole like flip out screen situation. That's just me. I find the buttons on the back of the camera super easy to use. Everything is sort of nicely laid out. Now, you do on top obviously have your dials for your modes and that kind of thing, and you have the exposure compensation dial. I don't actually use it, but you do have a lock on it so you can lock it in a way. You've got the joystick, very good. They made this a lot easier to grip and everything like that. And the screen is touch enabled. So yeah, like the ergonomics of this camera are really good. I just find it a little bit too small for my hand, and when I'm walking around, I find I've got like that three finger sort of claw grip on the camera. Sometimes I'm worried I'm gonna drop it because I just have nowhere to put the pinky. I don't feel like I've got a great grip. And as bad as this sounds, sometimes having a small camera is a little detrimental, because although it has no effect on the quality that comes out of it as a camera, when you go to a professional shoot, people see small equipment and instantly think it's not gonna be as good. As creators, we know it's not important, but sometimes that is a factor. I have had that once where someone's just like, oh, your camera's quite small. It obviously doesn't take very good photos. And it's like, come on, do you even know? But yeah, so ergonomics are fantastic. Like, it's almost the perfect camera for me. I guess in terms of the physicality as well, we'll talk about the lens mount. I mean, if you're coming from a Sony A7 III looking to upgrade to this camera or whatever it is, you already know that the E-mount is very, very good. I think it's probably, other than like the Canon EF mount, it is the most fleshed out mount on the market. Plenty of third-party lenses, so if you want to get cheap lenses, the lens I'm shooting on now is the Viltrox 24mm prime, and it is fantastic. I'll have a separate video on that coming on my channel, and Sony themselves developed some great lenses, so I think the E-mount is fantastic as well. So that's the physicality of the camera. It's not always the most important thing, but I think it's good to know in terms of how the camera works. Now let's move on to photography, because like I said at the start, I am a hybrid content creator, so I do photo and video. And yes, the elephant in the room here is the 12 megapixel sensor. Now I'll leave a video linked up above to a video Chris Howe made about how it's pretty much impossible to tell the difference when you print these photos between the 12 megapixel and a larger megapixel sensor. But here's the thing. Although it takes fantastic photos, the dynamic range is great, and just taking photos on this camera is excellent, 12 megapixels doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room when it comes to cropping. So, you know, you got to keep in mind with a 12 megapixel image, you're basically working with like a 4K resolution there. And so the more you zoom into that, the less resolution you have. I didn't think this was going to be much of an issue when I started with using this camera. But what I've realized in taking photos with it over this 6-month period is I actually tend to crop into my photos quite a lot. And again, this isn't something I thought about. This is just something I do. And now I have started noticing with that 12 megapixel sensor that it's not quite enough. Like 20 megapixels, 24 megapixels is probably the sweet spot for myself. Now, if you know that you don't crop a lot, this is a great photography camera. Like, I love it. I've just started noticing that for my work, I like the flexibility to be able to crop in my editing software, and I'm just not getting as much flexibility as I'd like out of the photos I'm taking. It's more of a personal thing, and I guess you watching this video would know if you crop in on your photos a lot. I didn't think I did. Turns out I do. So that's a bit of a disappointment because I really enjoy shooting photos with this camera, and like 12 megapixel files, super small, so easy to edit and work with. Like, it doesn't bog down any machine. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, just like with the whole cropping thing and just, I don't know, like I think it's just not quite there for me for photo, which is a shame because is what I use the camera for 50% of the time. Moving on to the video aspect, however, everything's fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about this camera in terms of video. You have Unreal codecs, you got 10-bit, 422, you got all the numbers that you can want in this camera. You got 4K 120. It's not super taxing. I edit on a 16-inch MacBook Pro. The 4K 120 is pretty like intense, but other than that, like, it's not too bad. And you get like great quality. You got the A7SIII tone picture profile, which is what I'm filming on right now. And it's just like a really good picture profile to film on. It's very easy to grade, and you get a little bit of extra dynamic range and all that sort of thing. So as a video camera, this is fantastic. The downside to this, again, is going to be the size of the camera being so small and not having the best stabilization in the world. So it is quite shaky. Even though the sensor is stabilized, it is quite shaky. And that all comes down to the fact that it's a small light camera. There's not a lot of places for you to put your camera and get a lot of contact to stabilize your shots. But the benefit of that is that because it's a small light camera, using on a gimbal is really easy because it's super tiny, and you get a lot of nice small primes for this camera as well. So, you know, on the video side of things, I love this camera. On the photography side of things, it's just not quite up to scratch, which is sort of where we go into, I guess, my final thoughts on this camera. You know, at the price of this camera, it's $4,800. You look at the price range of cameras in the vicinity there, you've got like the Canon R5 or even the R6, which is a lot cheaper. You have the Panasonic S1, S1H, like you have all these other cameras there that, for me personally, I think would work better as an all-round hybrid camera. This camera is fantastic. For me personally, the photography aspects of this camera just don't quite match up to what I use it for, even though it is primarily a video camera. And just the size of it as well is just not quite there for myself. So I guess like if you want to pick this camera up, I would 100% recommend it. The things I would ask yourself first is, do you want a smaller camera? Which maybe some of you do, you want a nice light camera. And are you prepared to have some sort of ergonomic issues when using it because it's so small? And do you crop in? If you do take photos, do you crop a lot? Because if you do, it's not gonna be for you at all. If you're 100% a video shooter, get it. It's fantastic. Like, you just 100% get it. If you're a hybrid shooter, I think honestly, as a hybrid shooter, you want at least 24 megapixels so you have the flexibility in post when editing photos. It's not about the printing for me. It's more just the flexibility of being able to crop in and reframe the shots if I want to. And I think maybe for the price range, I think there are better options out there for hybrid photographers. I haven't really tried any of them. Like the Canon R6, I think might be a good option. The Panasonic S line, maybe, not sure. I'm gonna rent a few bodies and try them out and see where I sort of fall on that. Those are my opinions and long-term review, I guess, of the Sony A7S III. If you stuck around this whole rant, drop a comment down below and say the word pineapple so I know which of you down there watched this entire video. I know there'll be a couple of you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. And yeah, until the next video, guys. See ya.